Generation X Epic Collection Volume 3, The Secret of M. This covers Generation X 24 through 32, -1, because they were doing that whole thing at the time, Annual 97, X-Men Unlimited 16, Marvel Team Up number 1, and a deal Daydreamers numbers 1 through 3, and Generation X Underground 1 through 3. So this takes place during Zero Tolerance, which is like a X-Force, X-Men crossover sort of thing. And Generation X gets caught up in the middle of that, but it doesn't start there at first. Scott Lobdell has a deal with M-Plate here, and to start. And what's interesting is M-Plate in the first couple volumes as a villain seemed like a very scary villain, and now he's kind of becoming a joke. And I hate that when characters get overused in books that happens. Now he kind of has a deal, and Black Tom Cassidy shows up and is this plant man. Out of the blue somewhere, and he just kind of wrecks the school, and half the kids get like transported to be shipwrecked at sea. Jubilee gets captured by the Zero Tolerance people, and here's a annual that has nothing to do with that. That's just in between things where we get some nice character development out of this. The annual is pretty decent, and then everything kind of falls apart from there. This whole series, like, the characters were developing pretty well in the first 2 volumes, but now we're caught up in the crossover. And so the next several issues end up just kind of stalling as the kids are running across the nation. Sean Banshee and Emma Frost are trying to find them. And Jubilee's dealing with the main storyline for Operation Zero Tolerance. It's like... The art's pretty decent. I mean, it's still Chris Bacallo, who's been doing this entire thing for the most part. So you still get that kind of fun, quirky art that he was doing in this style in the 90s. He really changed his style quite a bit later on in life here. But you get to learn a little bit about Penance here. Penance, there's a part where Emma Frost is going to trade M-Plate Penance in order to locate the other kids, and Banshee takes big exception about that. Emma Frost almost dies here, and it changes writers to James Robison, who's like of Starman fame, even though the art remains the same. And here's some of the Zero Tolerance stuff. Now, Jubilee's trapped in the Zero Tolerance area, and there's like a daughter of the guy who runs it named Daria, and she's slowly learning like she's kind of a mutant, and like, oh, we're not so different after all, and like learning that, you know, it was a mistake to kidnap them. Eventually, they find the kids in L.A. They kind of gloss over finding them, and they're kind of back at the X estate at the end of this once it all kind of wraps up. And you get a single issue by Tom DeFalco at the end of it, which kind of doesn't tie into anything. And so it's kind of odd. Now, once that happens, that's the end of the Generation X stuff, and you get like the Daydreamer series. Now, this is done by J.M. DeMatteis. And it's Howard the Duck, Artie, Franklin Richards, and gosh, I always forget this lady's name. She's from Thor, and she's like an alien, but she's outcast here. And they're just navigating these daydreams, and they navigate these. Oh, and Man-Thing, very odd team. And it ends up all being a dream of Franklin Richards. So it's like, it's one of those storylines that really doesn't matter at the end. It's cute, but like, it doesn't matter at the end. And then you get this Generation X Underground, where they try to mimic Underground comics with like some short comics as like a one shot at the end of this. And they're all, you get, you know, Charlie's Angels parody out of it, and a couple other different things. And they actually parody trading cards and things like that in there, and for the 90s stuff. So it's okay. I mean, it's actually a pretty quick read because it's tied up in an event, and the pacing's pretty quick on all the storylines. It's just, you feel like it's lost its way, and it really doesn't know how to find itself at this point. And I hear that the series only gets worse from here. So this might be the end of what the Generation X that's worth reading at all. The first couple volumes are pretty nostalgic and set up a pretty good premise, but it's like they just don't know where to go with them at this. Oh, the Secret of M. What is the Secret of M? She splits into 2 people at the end of one of the issues here, and it's actually happens off screen. She shows up, and Angelo is actually carrying her, and there's like 2 of them. And it's like, oh, she's 2 people, actually. And they kind of reference it a little bit in the next issue, but they really don't explain what happened very well. And I guess she was merged as 2 people, and now she's 2 people again. It's bizarre. that's the big secret there. And yeah, didn't really quite hit on all cylinders. So I'll call this, my average is like a 7 out of 10. I'll call this like a 6 out of 10. So it's below that. This is not one of the best comics out there. And it, only gets worse from here, apparently. We'll see how it goes for Volume 4. Leave a comment down below with what you think about this. Hit that like and subscribe button. We'll be back soon.